Hello and welcome along to another episode of this FM19 story, part of the furniture with me, Daniel. It's the start of a brand new season today, and my word is it going to be a spectacular one. We've got all the news from the summer transfer window, where we've gone berserk both in terms of spending money and in letting players go for big fees. There's certainly plenty of surprises to come, and it's definitely been a spectacular summer transfer window. I hope you're not too upset by some of the players leaving the club. Those of you that were following the story with me last year obviously know there's a massive landmark this season. We're going to be playing in Europe for the first time in the Europa League, and as a result we needed to bolster our squad a bit. On this homepage here you can probably see a few new names as well as one surprise departure as well. But firstly, a massive thank you for all of you that continue to follow the series. Please do put a thumbs up on the video if you're enjoying the content, and if you're looking forward to another season and another spectacular transfer window. If you're new to the channel then please subscribe for daily FM19 content, and a massive thank you if you've popped over from the cricket content to come and check out my Football Manager videos too. But today is all about transfers, and we have got a lot of big surprises. Firstly, we've bought in a 9-figure sum this summer, over 100 million from sales, and that's even with one big one falling through at the last minute. We've got one big loanee yet to go out as well, but we've managed to spend over double the amount we've bought in, which means we've spent nearly £250 million this summer. We're really preparing for European football, and we want to accelerate now and get towards the top of the league. Now we've got the financial clout to do so. It's our first full season in our expanded stadium, 29,500 seats. We're into Europe and we're getting the extra prize money. Now it's time to reach the Champions League. So let's go and have a look at the transfers. We start on the centre screen so you can see the one pending out. Fabian Palacios we've bought back after his loan spell. We were intending him to play him as first choice, but unfortunately he's not developed as we would have liked. Started to decline a little bit over the summer, just 2.5 star ability now, so we're going to loan him out one more time. There's plenty of big clubs looking at him across the different divisions. We've got West Brom in the Championship, then Lazio in Italy, Schalke in Germany and Valencia in Spain, so he's got a choice of all the big European leagues. In terms of ins, we've got one more to be agreed, just a young centre-half, an 18-year-old. He may well come in the January window. We just wait to see if he accepts our offer. It's only a little signing, no real risk involved, so it doesn't matter too much if he doesn't make it in the end. Not even £1 million, nothing at top Premier League level. But let's go to the transfer history screen. That's the one I'm sure you've all been waiting for. Some of the numbers are absolutely exceptional, and I don't apologise for them. You can see towards the end of the window we've gone nuts, spending 236 million in total. We've also bought in 114, so we are balancing the books as much as we can. If we look at our released players first, just a load of youth players going out. Joe Edwards was once one of the stars of a youth intake, but he never quite developed as we'd intended. Most of the others weren't close to making it, so there's no real surprises in the released ones. But if we go to our transfers in and out, that's where all the big news is at the moment. We're going to start with the outs before we go on to the ins, because obviously they're going to be the stars of the show. Ross Taylor went on a free at the end of his contract. He's moved to Leeds on a free transfer, 24 years of age, and he just didn't quite make it, but I'm sure he'll be a good Championship player. I think Leeds are in the Championship anyway. Yes, they are, so hopefully he'll be a first choice player there. We already knew that Vladimir was leaving, the backup holding midfielder to Spartak Moscow. Nearly £18 million, a brilliant return. He's certainly not worth anywhere near that. Then a few of the loanees going out before Grant McGregor, the next big transfer. £15 million to Cardiff. Our opponents on the first day of the season today. They came up from the Championship last year and we're looking forward to coming up against him. Hopefully he won't do anything special, but he wasn't quite good enough for the standard we were playing at. Then again, plenty more loans as we go along, before one big loan star in Ray Probert. He's gone to Swansea of the Championship. I'm sure he'll be first choice there. He played first choice football at Norwich last year. We did think about getting him involved in the Europa League, but due to one of the signings we made, we've got 5 quality central midfielders, and even the one we tried to sell on deadline day, the deal fell through, so it's a good job he's not here, as he wouldn't have got much football. So hopefully another good season in the Championship, and we'll review him after that. Andy Walsh, the third choice keeper last year, he's gone for 180 grand, a really average goalkeeper, and with Montano coming back from loan, he was never going to be involved, so we've just let him leave the club to Bolton. Hopefully he'll get some game time there. Matthew Leclerc, the fourth choice centre half last year, he's gone off to West Brom in the Championship. I'm sure he'll be an absolute star there. He's certainly good enough to play in the Premier League, just not in the top half of the division. Now we've managed to reach that level. But £6 million for a 29-year-old and another one off the wage bill. Then the big transfers out started, and this is the biggest one of them all. Cecinio Badger to Juventus. We got the message at the end of the last episode. Because we were so close to the Champions League, he didn't want to leave anymore, and he was going to give us one more year. But this transfer was sort of spurred on by a couple of things. Firstly, he was still a little unhappy, wouldn't sign a new deal, and then we got a new goalkeeper from Stuttgart for 20 million, who will of course go and meet in a minute, but he came up in our scout reports and he was an upgrade on Badger, half a star better in terms of current ability and the same potential as Badger. Let's not forget that Badger had also made a few mistakes towards the end of last year, so to get 55 million from Juventus is incredible, and the new goalkeeper's earning less money as well, so everything financially worked out brilliantly. Badger's a very good keeper and he was a good servant for us, conceding less than one a game in a season and a half. We certainly won't forget the impact he made here, particularly in that first year. He was absolutely brilliant. Then a few more after that, Emmanuel Fibrasima's gone back to the Football League. He's not going to make it a Premier League level now, but we do want to make him a decent footballer still. The same for Rami Hassan, who's gone to Coventry in League One. He rejected my beloved Luton Town to go there, so hopefully he'll do well this season. Then the next big out, and possibly the first man we've made a heavy loss on, Hernandez gone to Newcastle for 10.25 million. There are a few add-ons and a sell-on fee as well, but unfortunately as we paid 23 million for him, he is going to be considered a flop despite his 104 appearances and his pretty good service overall. He's only 23 years of age, so he should improve, and if he does do well at Newcastle, we'll probably break even after the sell-on clause. But a decent player nonetheless, and we're thankful for what he did for us. Just not quite good enough this year, especially now Sousa's back from loan. Then next along the list is Darren Palmer. He's gone out on loan to Hull. He was there last year as they got promoted, and now he'll get a chance in the Championship. A really good player, again might not make it a Premier League level, but he'll certainly do well in the Championship, where he can forge a future career. Then loads more loans, including one named to Nantes, who we are going to meet on the other side in a minute. But finally Lidio went on deadline day. He's gone to Roma for 7.75 million, a slight profit on what we paid for him. He just didn't develop as we intended, and again we've got a much better left back now. We had to pay through the roof for his replacement, but it was a player too good to turn down. So Lidio's gone over to Italy, and I hope he has a good career there. Then on to the ins, and you can see we started the window in our normal fashion. We found 3 good upgrades in positions that we needed. We managed to sell on players in equivalent positions, so Stefanovic for Badger's a great example of that. £20 million for the new keeper on 80 grand a week, and we sell Badger who's on 95 grand a week and get 55 million for him. The other two were just brilliant players in their positions and phenomenal fees as well, so let's just go through them all before we go nuts towards the end of the window. In the end we just found players in positions that we desperately needed to improve, or we only had one player available, and we just got the best player we could find, no matter what the price was. So Rafael came in from Real Madrid first. He's a holding midfielder at 24 years of age, 3-star ability, 4-star potential, and he'll replace Vladimir as our backup holding midfielder. He'll start in the Europa League and Cup games, with Bacanes continuing in the league. A good playmaker again, not the hardest worker, but a similar mould to Bacanes, and hopefully he'll develop and become just as good. 60 grand a week is a little bit more on the wages, but now we're in Europe we can stretch that bit further. I guess the one thing I would say with Rafael as well, 46 appearances for Real Madrid's first team. That's the calibre of player we're bringing in, and we certainly can't complain about that. Next along the line is someone we looked at in January, and we were disappointed not to get him at the time, but Madi Keita did eventually join us this summer. 11.25 million from Leganes, again a La Liga side. He made over 100 appearances there after coming through at Atletico and playing 37 league games for them, and he did eventually agree to join us for 90 grand a week. 4-star ability, 4-star potential, and in theory he should replace Lapin in the first team. He should be in there alongside Omar. Hopefully we'll get the best out of him this year. A really good all-rounder, a Spanish under-21 international, and coming into his prime now he should be a superstar. Fingers crossed he'll adapt to Premier League football. Then last of the bargains, Nemanja Stojanovic. He's coming from Stuttgart for 20 million. Our brand new first choice goalkeeper, 3.5-star ability, 4.5 potential, Germany's number 1, played nearly 200 league games for Stuttgart. As we mentioned, he's on less of a wage than Badger, and he's just as good everywhere across the pitch. Maybe not quite so many standout attributes like 17s or 18s that Badger had, but a lot more consistent across the board, and not many weaknesses in his game. Rushing out is perhaps his only one, but it's not something we ask too much of our keeper. But a really good replacement, I'm delighted to have him here, and with first team football I really think he'll improve. Next along the list is Laurent Brunet. We've mentioned he's gone on loan to Nantes since. Another one a bit like that Brazilian kid last year. We've just taken a gamble on a free agent at 18. Our scout said he might amount to something, and coming from PSG he should have been schooled well, and you can see his attributes are pretty decent. He's got 2-star ability, 5-star potential, but unfortunately he has picked up a serious injury already. So hopefully he'll recover from that and do well, but if not, we're not really losing any money. Then on to the crazy last 2 weeks of the window. Firstly, we needed a backup left winger. Grant McGregor had gone for 15 million. We still had Kozzel, but we needed someone else. And instead of signing a backup, we signed an absolute superstar. Boubacar Silla from Torino, £33 million. Our scouts had been badgering me with him for about 18 months, telling me I had to sign him and he was brilliant. I kept looking at his attributes and thinking they're not great, but last season they really went through the roof, and he's now got brilliant stats in all the key areas. So he played 46 times for Torino, 22 goals for them. He's played for Arsenal when he came through at PSG, and also played for Milan on loan. So he's got plenty of experience at big clubs, and we're hoping that mentality will help us this year. A goal rate of nearly 1 in 2 from the left wing as well, and good enough to cover up front if needed. A really brilliant player, 3.5-star ability, and I think he's going to be a superstar for us, although I have been wrong before. Then next is our big money replacement for Julian. We tried to hang on as long as possible, but unfortunately I can prove to you that he is going to be the first choice at City this year. It actually worked out negatively them not getting into Europe, as a few of their stars wanted to leave, and as a result players like Julian were back in the first team picture. So he's going to be playing for them this year, and hopefully we'll be able to snap him up next summer. But our replacement is Alex Andrade, not quite as good in terms of current ability, but he was a 20-year-old wonder kid when we first looked at him. His 3-star ability, 5-star potential came directly from Benfica, and hopefully he'll do a brilliant job for us. He scored loads of goals in the Olympics this summer, and he's going to be back soon and in the first team. Fingers crossed he'll be able to make an impact. He's got all the attributes in the key positions. Again's a natural advance forward, and I really think he's going to be something special. It's just whether he adapts to Premier League football and continues to improve off the pitch. Then next is a third choice striker, something we have to have this year with Europe. We needed an extra player in centre midfield and up front, just in case we got a little bit of wear and tear in the squad, and so we could rotate our full 11 if we did get a couple of injuries. This guy was an ideal signing, again picked up by our scouts, a free agent who'd been released by Chelsea, English born and brought through in the country, so he does count towards our homegrown quota and means that we can add him to both our Premier League and our Europa League squad. 2.5-star ability, 3-star potential, and he looks like a really decent player. He's happy to have a small contract as a backup player, and he knows where he stands in the squad, and he's happy to be there at the moment. He can also cover on the left or right wing and in the number 10 role if we want to change things up, so I think a really good versatile signing and perfect for our first season in Europe. Then the last two on deadline day, the massive deals in defence. You knew that we were short of a left back with Lidio leaving, and with the sale of Leclerc and the impending loan out of Fabian Palacios, you know we needed a centre half. So we've managed to cover both of those positions. Bruno Moraes is the left back. He's coming from Chelsea for £46 million. 3.5-star ability, 3.5 potential. 2-footed, can cover at right back, can play left wing back if we need to go attacking. A really decent wage to make up for the big transfer fee, and he's just really brilliant across the board. I think he'll break into the Brazil squad soon. 41 appearances for Chelsea in the league, and he's got plenty of Premier League experience. Not one where we've got to worry about him adapting to the country. We know he's just going to be able to settle in quickly. Already speaks English too. Plenty of positives for this guy. And then the big one at the end, £70 million. A little bit of this is in instalments, about 40 million of it up front. Kyle McDonald from Watford. As a Luton fan, it was fantastic for me to take Watford's best player, and it's a 23-year-old England international centre-half, 4-star ability, 4.5 potential. Physically he's an absolute monster, mentally he's got the attributes of a leader, and technically he's really decent too. Heading's maybe a slight weakness at 13, but still better than most of our centre-halves at the club. Only on around 80 grand a week as well, so we're not really breaking our wage structure. Baccanes on 110, still the highest paid player. We're not willing to go for the big ones yet, but this is absolutely brilliant for me. I think he's going to be the difference this year, and I really hope with him and Murray staying fit, we'll be able to compete for a top 4 place. Either that or we can try and win the Europa League, and then we'll go into the Champions League anyway. But again, nearly 100 Premier League appearances, we could couldn't ask for much more from our new centre-half. So obviously it is a lot of money to have spent, particularly on McDonald, but generally across the board too. We were close to bringing in a bit more income. We'd agreed a deal to sell James Hayes back to Watford. That was for around £25 million plus add-ons, but unfortunately it fell through on deadline day, so we are stuck with him until January. We'll make sure he gets some games in the Europa League, just so his value doesn't plummet too much, and then we'll try and move him on again in January. Hopefully he'll be able to bring us the same amount of money. That would have put our spend at just £100 million, which isn't too bad moving into Europe. We've got a really strong squad across the board now. We were trying to sell Stevie Maxwell as well. Unfortunately that one fell through. We had offers of 4 or 5 million for him, but in the end it just wasn't to be. The only other player that nearly left the club is Juan Manuel Ramos, the central midfielder. 3-star ability, 4-star potential. We know he was pretty handy last year. We had an offer of £48 million. Unfortunately, he didn't agree contract terms though. The plan at the time was Hayes would stay and Juan Manuel Ramos would be the man to leave. Probert could have then stayed as 5th choice, but unfortunately the deal fell through. But considering we got him on a free just 12 months ago, that would have been an unbelievable deal. We're hoping for the same with Rafael this summer. Another man bought in from Real Madrid on the cheap. So all in all, I think our squad stands in a really good place, and I do hope you agree with me. Obviously let me know what you think of the squad. Are there any areas you don't think I've covered? I think we're stronger pretty much everywhere across the pitch. Obviously the likes of Omar and Bakanes are still going to be involved. The only area we're probably weaker is up front, but as we weren't able to sign Julian and didn't have the £100 million required to get a top class replacement, we had to go for a slightly younger one and try to develop him in-house. If he gets first team football and gets on a roll, hopefully he'll improve really quickly. We've strengthened at the back remarkably. McDonald and Moraes are going to be brilliant. They'll join Richard Quirk and the big January signing Mon Everson, and they should form a pretty formidable back four. With the new keeper Stahanovic behind them, he's going to be a top class player too. We've also got a pretty good backup team for the Europa League. If you think the likes of Talasise will be starting there, as well as last season's midfielders like Lapin and Ramos, we've also got new signings such as Raphael who will be in there. Lonergan Irwin of course will be a backup fullback, and Lee Rutherford will still star up front, although at the moment I'm a bit worried about him. He doesn't often score early in the season, and with Andrade on international duty at the Olympics, he's our only available striker at the club. Tariq Apoku is obviously there too, but he's not quite ready for first team football yet. Hopefully they'll be able to make an impact though, and just get us through these first few games. We're waiting for Omar to come back too. He's obviously a big loss at the moment, but with Cater and Lapin both at the club, hopefully it won't be as big a miss as before. So a really decent summer in my book. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments. There's obviously plenty of surprises, plenty of information to take in, and some eye-watering numbers both in and out, with some brilliant bits of business and then possibly some desperate panic buys. But all in all, I think we've improved every position at the club, and that's all I could have hoped for at the start of the year. Our finances are still good at £70 million, and although we're losing a little bit of money, we will sell on a couple more in January. We're on course to fail the financial fair play regulations, but don't forget they take place at the end of the year. Once we loan out Palacios and sell one of the midfielders, that'll bring in an extra 70 or 80 grand. So that's going to be important in terms of the weekly drop, and it's the only thing we've really got to manage this year. We may even let one of the keepers go if it means we pass through the regulations, so we might have to do a little bit of work on that, but a brilliant summer nonetheless, and I'm absolutely delighted with where we are. If we go and have a look at the schedule, you can see our first game's away at Cardiff. We will be playing against Grant McGregor, who we sold in the summer, but we won't be facing their new centre half, who was actually our primary target early in the window. He's on international duty at the Olympics too, and by a 19-year-old Senegalese defender. We tried to sign him as our 4th centre back when letting Palacios go. He's a wonder kid who's going to make it to the top, but unfortunately he chose Cardiff. They've offered him first team football, whereas we only offered him a rotational role. And then I guess last but not least, after that big transfer window, we need to see where the media think we're going to finish. The season preview suggests we'll be 8th, behind Everton, who we finished above last year. City are still second favourites for the league, despite losing a couple of players this summer, but overall they've still got a brilliant squad, and I think they've managed to hold on to most. So it is going to be a battle between the top 8 again, and hopefully we can get in those top 6 positions. Now we've got into Europe, we've got to make sure we stay there, otherwise we'll have to sell half of these on. We don't want to have have to do that next summer, so fingers crossed we'll be able to do pretty well. It may take a little while for these lads to gel, and we may struggle while a couple of Brazilians are on international duty, but I think we're going to have a really good season, and obviously let me know in the comments if you agree with me. Where do you think we're going to finish this year, and which of the new signings do you think's going to star? But if you did enjoy this big transfer special, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel for daily FM19 content from my 2 long-term stories. This one will be back on Sunday with our first game of the new Premier League season, and then we'll obviously follow that up with our first European game, so a really big week coming up in this one. And then my Journeyman series, The Head Coach, we're well into season 13 of that one, and we're at a new stint in Portugal now, trying to compete for trophies with Sporting Lisbon. There's also 3 episodes a week from my Cricket 19 career, every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday at midday. A massive thank you to everyone that supported that series and the Ashes Test playthrough from the same game before. I've really been blown away by the support for those, and I really do appreciate you checking it out. Our weekly Snooker 19 career continues every Friday at 4:30, but a massive thanks for watching this one and your continued support as always. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed the spectacular summer transfer special and that you'll join me again next time as we play our first game of the season.